Hi, this is Steve. Today we're building a computer. Codename War Machine. We're using the Vengeance C70 case. The Corsair Vengeance C70 case was a good choice. Our Thermotake 750 watt power supply fit in the case perfectly, and with its modular design, we don't have extra cables to stow. Next, we pair the Asus Rampage motherboard to the Intel Core i7-3930K. Both are socket 2011. We researched the CPU using forums and online benchmarks to find a CPU with the best price to performance rating within our budget. Mounting the CPU to the motherboard was the most difficult part of the build because we didn't really know how to open the double latch on the motherboard. And the stress in doing it wrong created a little anxiety during the build. There is nothing like the feeling of one making one critical mistake at this point. I did make a mistake by removing the CPU cover on the motherboard before lining up the notches on the CPU, but fortunately nothing bad happened. The 2011 contact could have been damaged by making this mistake. The back panel plate was a snap and fit perfectly into place. The Asus Rampage 4 motherboard fit neatly into the case. Simply line up the screw holes and center peg and screw it into place. Next, we decided to use a Cooler Master Seidon liquid CPU cooler instead of a traditional heatsink. With the socket 2011, the installation was fairly straightforward. We had to look at a YouTube Cooler Master video on how to install it. Airflow should be coming into the case over the radiator. We had to move one of the case fans to the top of the case to redirect airflow outwards. Because we use a socket 2011, all we had to do is screw in 4 standoffs on the motherboard and orientate the radiator so the hoses were on the bottom of the case. Just a small amount of thermal paste is needed. Screw down the Seidon heatsink and we're done. The process of plugging in case cables to the motherboard so the switches work was a chore. We had to read the manual to locate the various connections, but it was fairly straightforward and completed with moderate difficulty. Plugging in the main power from the power supply was simple and dummy-proof, because there's only one way it will fit. Just make sure it's secure. To install the memory, open the latch, line it up with the slot notches, and carefully press until it's seated. We went with the 32GB memory, which maxes out the board. Doing research, we found the Dominator 32GB quad-channel memory was the only module of the size tested by Asus that we were sure would work. Installing the hard drives in BluRay Player was made extra simple with the Corsair Vengeance's toolless trays. Just pull a tray out and snap the hard drive in place. The solid state needed an adapter tray to fit, but didn't make it much more difficult. Some people choose to use Velcro to hold the solid state drive in place. The BluRay just slid in and locked in place. We needed storage expansion, so we're using the Rosewill Trayless Hot Swap mobile rack. This will allow us to create swapping libraries and backup drives of various files. Plugging in the SATA connections to the motherboard was straightforward, making sure we placed the main drive in one of the 6 gigabit ports. Video card lines up into the PCI Express slot with little pressure to seat it. The GeForce 660 requires additional power. Connect the remaining power connections, hide the cables, and we're done. There's nothing else to connect. If it works, it works. If it doesn't blow up, it doesn't start on fire.
All right.
I'm really nervous about turning it on. Every computer I've ever built has worked, well, not every computer, but most computers I've built have worked on the first try. And I'm afraid, because this technology is so much greater than what I've ever fooled around with. Oh, there's where that thing came from. Grommet. This might not work. So I'm going to turn it on. There's not we don't have an operating system on it, obviously, so we might just get a spark.
Okay.
Or a, is that the button?
Yep.
I believe we have a working unit.
And what is this unit called?
War Machine. War Machine! Sorry.